Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Hammer Territory podcast. This is episode 313. My name is Brad Rowland. I'm coming to you on a Sunday evening here in late December. It's the holidays in full force, and I'm joined, as I almost always am, by Scott Coleman. Scott, it's, I guess, rare for us recently to have a quiet show, but as we record this, it might be a quiet show. How are you?
Hello, Brad. I am doing well, and early happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you and everybody out there. And it's weird, like they signed Ha-Seong Kim basically a week ago, and there hasn't been a whole lot of moves, although there was one transaction that we're going to talk about for the Braves tonight. But the way this offseason has gone so far, it's been tough to go more than a few days without some kind of Braves activity. And we'll see. Usually there's a flurry of activity across Major League Baseball the couple of days before Christmas. But then usually it quiets down from about Christmas Eve until the day or two after New Year's Day. It's not a guarantee, but it feels like we might see some real activity across the rest of the league, and maybe the Braves will be a part of that in the next 72 hours or so.
Yeah, there was a trade in baseball right before we started recording. It didn't involve the Braves, but there's some stuff that's going to happen in the next couple of days, almost certainly. And we are a little bit spoiled right now. I was looking at our database of previous episodes, and in the last 12 days, we have done 5 shows, or actually 6 shows in the last 12 days. And I believe 3 of them were emergency podcasts. So we've had plenty to talk about. And if you are new to the podcast, number one, we are Hammer Territory. We are part of the Foul Territory network of podcasts. We cover the Braves all year round on this particular podcast. It is the two of us, Brad and Scott, plus Stephen Tolbert and Sean Coleman in a regular rotation of the 4 of us. But if you missed it, the most recent show on the feed was Sean and Stephen talking about kind of the state of the Braves after that aforementioned flurry of offseason activity that's been going on. And today, we have a couple of items to discuss. You already mentioned the transaction. We'll get to that in a second. But first on the agenda is basically, we got some questions about this, and we'll do some mailbag later on, some direct mailbag. But some remaining targets, a lot of hey, who do you guys want the Braves to sign now or trade for now or whatever? We figured we might go kind of area by area. I know the boys talked about this on the most recent episode, and you and I teased this on our reaction to Ha-Seong Kim being signed. It felt like then the Braves might be done with the main offensive lineup stuff. Might be, not definitely are, but that seems like we should just say that out loud. Perhaps they could add, I know that was a speculation that Steven and Sean did as well, maybe a right-handed bat off the bench kind of thing. Aside from that, Scott, I'm not saying they shouldn't sign Kyle Tucker. That'd be cool if they did. But I think they might be right-hand bat only at this point in time. I'm not sure what else they would do unless Alex just changed his entire Alexness overnight.
I would say when you look at the offensive side of the Braves right now, and if you make a couple of assumptions with who is going to be on the bench, there might be one bench spot left if you assume Eli White is a lock for the team, which I think he is.
I think he's very likely to be on the team. I don't know if I'd go to lock, but I think he's very likely to be on the team.
Yeah. Speed player, can steal a base late in a game, great pinch runner, can run into a home run, as we saw last season. And then in addition to Eli White, you're going to also have either Sean Murphy or a backup catcher of some kind, assuming that Murphy is healthy after his hip surgery. You have Mauricio Dubon as your super utility guy. And you have Mike Yastrzemski as, we believe, the primary DH, fourth outfielder, rotate with Jerkson Profar and Acuna and whoever else in the lineup. That leaves one spot. I could see the Braves just kind of punting it and going with a total nothing burger as a 26th man. Your Brett Wisely types, maybe Nacho Alvarez could be in that role, but a player you're basically never going to rely on, or hopefully you don't have to rely on a whole lot. But they could go out and add a right-handed power bat of some kind to rotate in at DH or again in the outfield, the infield, wherever it might be. My hunch is they're just going to kind of roll with somebody internal for that final spot, but it would not totally shock me if Marcell Ozuna is sitting around and they want to bring him back for a few $1 million for clubhouse vibes and maybe an upside bat. I mean, you can say while the top of the order looks pretty good right now, there are some very legitimate questions about the bottom half of the lineup.
For sure. I mean, we've said this before, but if Marcell doesn't have a market and they could get him at a reasonable contract, and by that, I mean, the number of reasonable has come down after they've did the other stuff. At one point, a $10 million 1-year deal for Marcell Ozuna seemed like something that could happen to me. Now I can't imagine them paying $10 million for Marcell Ozuna. The role is too small. But if he has no market at all, if it's $5 million, okay, I'm fine with that. Doesn't bother me at all. besides something like that, I mean, there's some other names. I know there's been some Robert Refschneider kind of buzz between diehard Braves fans. I get it. Like there is a potentially small role there, but we're starting with this just to say they might be, and I think almost trending towards probably are mostly done with the offensive side of things, which makes the remaining targets more of a focus of pitching. Unless you have more to say on the bats, we could move on to the pitching side. Look, the headline, especially when you and I talk, I feel like even more so than anybody else on the Braves internet, is the starting pitching, because we've banged the drum so many times about how they just need to start. They need to add somebody else. I'm just going to list some names that are still available on the market as of Sunday, December 21st in free agency. Keep in mind, it could be a trade, and those are a lot harder to predict, but free agents are available. Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez, Zach Gallen, Tatsuya Amai, Chris Bassett, Tyler Mahle, Lucas Giolito, Zach Littell, and Nick Martinez are all guys who are supposed to get real money, who are all still available. Out of that group, does anyone excite you? And in fact, I'll let you answer this if you want to now, or we can do it in a sec. We got a question from Fear the Chop, who says, if the Braves sign a starting pitcher, who do you predict it will be? Now, predict and want are different things. Keep that in mind. But I'll throw that all to you at once, and I'll let you sift through it.
To answer the question, if I had to bet on if the Braves are going to sign a free agent starting pitcher, who would it be today, December 22nd, as most people are going to be listening to the show? My guess would be Chris Bassett. I think he is far more Alex Anthopoulos-like than like a Framber Valdez or Ranger Suarez or Zach Gallen, because of the financial commitments those guys are going to get. But Alex has spent money in the last 6 weeks, and the Braves might have more money to spend. So I think Chris Bassett probably not going to be someone who you lose your mind over the Braves signing, but a very capable fourth starter in this rotation. He would absolutely make the Braves a better team. It would free up the possibility of putting either Ronaldo Lopez or Grant Holmes, if they are healthy, into your bullpen as a bullpen weapon. It just, we've said it before, we'll say it one more time. I would really like to see the Braves at a starting pitcher and someone who moves the needle. Like I don't need some of these bottom of the barrel starting pitching free agents to come in. Like I just don't think that's necessarily worth it. But if you could get Chris Bassett or better, then sign me up all day long, assuming they have some money for them.
Yeah, that was my answer as well. We did not talk about this ahead of time. That's not a surprise that we would agree on something. We generally do a lot of the time, probably too much for podcast purposes. My runner-up, I think you're going to hate based on what you just said. I think the other guy that would be kind of Bravesy is Tyler Mahle. And the reason I say that is because Tyler Mahle has had some injury stuff, but when he has pitched, he's been quite good. And Alex has not shied away from that in recent years. Even Chris Sale was when he's pitched, he's been good kind of guy. And Tyler Mahle has the under the hood stuff that Alex likes, like, hey, maybe better than your ERA kind of guy, kind of off the radar. I would have picked Bassett to be fair, but I think Mahle has that like kind of like, I know he's boring in some ways, but he isn't as boring as you might think. I think his stuff is pretty interesting. He's just had some health issues. So the upside there is like he's had multiple seasons where he's had like a low threes ERA on some pretty decent volume when he's been able to stay healthy. Now, can he stay healthy? I don't know. But through Alex's premise, and he keeps saying this, by the way, on local radio, we're not chronicling every appearance Alex makes, but every time he talks, it seems like he's mentioning that we want a starter that can start a playoff game thing. And I'm not saying Tyler Mahle is going to be an awesome playoff starter. But for me, that really means Alex is saying we want upside more than we want like the lower end innings eater type. And Bassett kind of is the lower inning type, but he also is more established and older, which is very Alex coded. I think Mahle is like the middle tier of like, hey, there's actually some upside here, which is why I think that might be a possibility. I'm not calling for that. I mean, the other side of this, I'll ask you first. Who do you want them to sign? Do you have a want prefer? Like, is want predict are different. Our predictions are Bassett and Mahle if they sign somebody. Do you have a guy that you're yearning for beyond those guys?
I think it's funny. I'll answer that in just one moment, but I think the playoff starter qualification is funny because you can't tell me that if the Braves needed Chris Bassett, who's been really solid the last 4 or 5 seasons, and said, Chris, you are going to go through this lineup one time as our starter, go throw the shit out of the baseball for 9 hitters and get us through 3, right? Or get us through 4.
I have to bleep that now, Scott. That's unfortunate for us. Come on, man.
Sorry, it's
I'm just kidding. It's fine.
Yeah, sorry, Santa. Don't move me to the bad list 3 days before. But let's talk about the top of the market. I love the idea of Framber Valdez. The one thing with Framber, other than the big contract he's probably going to get, is the now infamous intentional cross-up pitch that he had. If folks want to look it up, basically, it sounds like Framber and the catcher in Houston had a disagreement about what pitch to throw. Framber then gave up a home run on the very next pitch. I think it was a grand slam. And then it sure looked like Framber intentionally crossed up his catcher and drilled him in the chest protector with a fastball. And it was awkward. It was a bad look, to be blunt. That being said, everybody has a bad moment, and I would be fascinated to know if you surveyed 100 Houston Astros players who have played with Framber Valdez over the last couple of seasons, what they would say. Was it, I would like to think we don't get judged by maybe the worst moment of our big league career. But if there's also other players, and you can bet Alex Anthopoulos is going to bet this, would say, Framber, maybe not the best dude, then I think you could probably take him off the board entirely. But they might say, I was just as surprised as you to see that happen. Framber's been a good guy in the clubhouse and his teammates like him. Then I could see it becoming at least somewhat possible if his market doesn't develop. Ranger Suarez, quickly, he's been a demon against the Braves, but he just throws so soft, and he's not going to suddenly start throwing harder into his 30s. I just don't see it. And also the Phillies haven't really shown a propensity to bring him back, which is a little interesting to me. And then Zach Gallen had such a down year. If he did not have the qualifying offer attached to him, I think I'd be more interested. But because you're taking a big risk on Gallen bouncing back, and you would lose the 26th pick, and you're probably going to have to give up a pretty big contract, I personally don't see it with Gallen, but maybe the Braves feel differently.
I think Gallen is one of those, there's always somebody in the front office or on a coaching staff or both that we could fix this guy. Because the upside was so high. Like, this is a top 5 Cy Young finisher multiple times, et cetera, et cetera. I do think Framber is, and look, we always say this, we're not Ken Rosenthal. We're not our guy, Ken Rosenthal, or Robert Murray, who are both foul territory guys and great reporters. We hear things, though. There's some Framber buzz. I'll just say that out loud. I've heard some Framber buzz, just a little. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's at least not like some guys. Like I used Cal Tucker as an example earlier. There was a 0% chance that was ever happening, right? And we kind of knew.
Oh
that.
Yeah.
That's not what I've heard about Framber Valdez. So for whatever it's worth, it's at least plausible to me. He'd be the guy to I'm with you. If Alex is famous, Robert said this on our show recently. Alex is famous for due diligence. If he makes 5 calls and 4 of them are like, no, that's not a good guy, crossed off the list. They do care a lot about makeup in the Braves organization. Whether you agree with that or not, they do care about that quite a bit. But yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I'd like to see them aim high. I kind of will always believe it when I see it on a 9-figure pitching contract until they do it. But I think we're on the same page. Aim high would be our preference. If they don't, there is some middle tier that they could go with at some point. Hopefully that answers the question. And we do have more mailbag questions coming. And also we have some relievers to discuss in a second. But first, a word from our partners on today's show. Okay, Scott. On the question of reliever targets, we talked about starters, talked about potential right-handed bats off the bench, etc. It's funny to me. Most of the relievers that I think are pretty interesting targets are guys that have already been on the Braves, which is kind of Alex coded too. He likes to kind of go back to the same well. The biggest name who has not signed as a reliever, that market's moved fast, by the way. The Braves were part of that. They signed Suarez and Iglesias already. But Pete Fairbanks is kind of the one closer level guy who is not signed. It would surprise me if the Braves did that because it's going to cost them real money. But hey, Alex is never afraid of signing a reliever. Thoughts on Pete Fairbanks?
At this point, I think getting a starter is a far more effective use of resources.
By a lot, yes.
But if Alex has money to spend, spend it, go give yourself a super bullpen or add another hitter to your mix or, whatever you have to do it. Like, why? If you have the cash to spend, go spend it. I'd rather Alex spend it on a reliever, even if this is the world's most expensive bullpen outside of the Dodgers. Of course. Like, would it be conventional to have Pete Fairbanks, Robert Suarez, and Raisel Iglesias in the 7th, 8th, and ninth? No, because those are all three bona fide closers the last couple of years. But if you strike out, maybe Framber Valdez doesn't check out. Maybe they don't want to commit 5 years to Ranger Suarez. Maybe they don't trust Zach Gallen to bounce back. Like, then add something to your bullpen. I mean, you feel good about a couple of guys in that group, but there's a lot in the back end of the bullpen, which kind of terrifies me if I'm being honest. So yeah, I mean, I think all things equal, I think the bullpen's in good enough shape. I think they can figure it out. I think they can add enough non-guaranteed roster invitees to spring training to kind of bridge that gap. But if nothing works out on the starter market, then by all means add at least one or two more arms to that bullpen mix.
I would not mind another $5 million reliever, like who was proven. And relievers are volatile. We always say that. It's true. But like if the Braves wanted to bring back Pierce Johnson for $5 million at this point, like I would still do that, honestly. Yeah. Or Tyler Kinley, another guy who the Braves had last year in that similar range. Old friend Kirby Yates is on the super old side, but has been good and could be available for a 1-year deal. Alex loves a 1-year deal. You mentioned here in our notes, I'll give you the credit for this. Evan Phillips is a guy we talked about once earlier this winter, I think. It's still coming back from TJ, but like is a potentially interesting reliever. Alex coded. Price could be lower. Comes back midseason. The old Chip Carey. I'll let you deliver the line if you want to. Making a trade without making a trade.
Partner, it is like making a trade without making a trade. Yeah, I mean, Evan Phillips is mildly interesting. Was once a very good closer with LA. Had Tommy John, probably not going to be ready until August or so next season. But it would kind of be like a couple of years ago when the Braves signed Kirby Yates. He was injured and rehabbing. And then, it seems like the Braves were like a year or two early on Yates, which is a bummer. Never wrong, just early. Yeah, I mean, there's options out there. We'll talk about a minor league arm they just added a couple of days ago as well to the mix. And, again, if we're under the assumption that the Braves have maybe $25 or so million, and that is a total assumption, but if they have $25 million left to spend this offseason, I would sure hope they're able to add some kind of impact to this group, whether it be in the starting rotation or the bullpen.
We agree for sure. And that's kind of, again, like a purposeful overarching look at what's still available out there. Said it once, we'll say it again. Trades are available. It's just really hard to project trades. But starting pitcher market in particular, like it might be more effective in many ways for them to trade for a starter, especially if Alex wants the aforementioned guy who can start a playoff game.
Well, and on that note, so a couple of days ago, the Orioles and Rays did a pretty big trade for Shane Baz.
Yep.
Now, I don't expect our listeners to be super familiar with Shane Baz's game. And Baz was a big-time prospect, has really good stuff, also has some injury risk. The Orioles gave up basically 3 first-round pick level talents in order to get 3 controllable years of Shane Baz. I mean,
prices are high, man. It costs a lot.
I mean, I don't even know if the Braves could necessarily swing that deal, but that would be like the equivalent of giving up Cam Caminetti, J.R. Ritchie, and the 26th pick in the upcoming draft.
I mean, certainly, think of whatever 3 of your top 5 prospects, if you're the Braves, given where the system is. That's what that price was. And you did mention it, but worth repeating. Baz has 3 years of control. That's why it costs so much. Like the Braves, I feel like have always been more in line with a pitcher trade that's like for a guy with maybe 1 or 2 years left. So the price is a little bit lower. Maybe those guys cost more in the short term because they're already in arbitration. They make where it is $12 million or something like that. But the price of guys who are under control for cheap for a long time, it's very high for a reason.
Well, yeah, and there might just not be a ton on the trade market for starting pitchers this winter. Like very apparently possible. The Twins are going to hang on. They just signed Josh Bell to play their first base, and
what? It's not a Twins podcast. What are they doing?
I don't know. And like Mackenzie Gore is a good pitcher, but because he's in the division, I just don't necessarily see that lining up. I mean, sure, there's other options out there, maybe, but 1, you have to meet a high asking price, and 2, when it's supply and demand, if there's only a couple of starters out there on the market, like, I don't know. I mean, sure, Oakland would probably love to get rid of Luis Severino in that contract, but Do you want to take a gamble on Luis Severino at $20 million a year that he can bounce back after an awful season? Like, I don't really want to see. I'd probably rather just sign Chris Bassett for 1 year.
Right. Only if the price is really low. But yeah, I'm with you. It's hard to project trades. I know it's fun. It can be interesting to do. Maybe we'll do it in January if we get bored. We'll try to do some big trades on this podcast. But it is hard, and that's why we're doing free agents first. But there's still enough on the market on starting pitching in particular where it's still interesting to talk about the guys that are left, and we'll see where the Braves go. You teased us already. We should at least talk about the transaction that happened a couple of days ago. The Braves signed Ian Hamilton to a 1-year deal. It's non-guaranteed, but it's a major league non-guaranteed. Could be a split. The Braves announced it, so it wasn't like they snuck this one under the wire. They tweeted it out. They announced this move, and he's a major league reliever, 30-year-old right-hander. He's been with the Yankees the last 3 years. Pretty good numbers with the Yankees actually, but his worst year was last year, which is why he's available. He had kind of a rough year, 2025. I will say this is 3 years ago now, but 2023 he was like actually awesome. Like under the hood, all the numbers looked awesome. He's only 30, so it's not like he's 38 and he's maybe done. Maybe he's done. We don't know. He's throwing slower now, but this is one of those guys where it's like not a joke. Like it's like this guy could be a part of the bullpen, and I would not be surprised at all. He seems like he's at least a real bet, and for very cheap, that makes total sense to me.
Absolutely. And it's funny, whenever a player signs with a team, I tend to look at the other fan base's reaction to it, which is not scientific, but
it helps.
There were quite a few Yankees fans who, when Ian Hamilton signed with Atlanta, they kind of were like, damn it, of course the Braves signed this guy. That's a really smart, like buy low, see if he can bounce back type of signing. His fastball dipped quite a bit. The velocity on the fastball was down. That obviously impacted Hamilton, a pitch that he really relied on a couple of years ago when he was so efficient. But to me, this kind of feels like Yoel Payamps 2.0. Like, why not, man? And you got it for basically no guaranteed money. If you want, if he makes the team, I'm guessing it's for $1 million, maybe $2 million. Sure. It's low risk, and there is some legitimate upside here if Phillips Hamilton rather can find what made him successful with the Yankees a couple of years ago. Then you've added somebody to your bullpen mix for very little money.
Yeah, it's one of those signings that we might just forget about. If it doesn't go well in the spring, might never talk about him again after that. Or he might be your sixth reliever in the bullpen and bring some actual value. Like it's very much a two sides of the coin there, but because of the cost of literally nothing, a non-guaranteed deal, it makes total sense. And these are the kind of guys that Alex is always going to sign. And then of course, Braves fans will accuse him of being a bargain basement guy. Or is it Bargain Bin Alex is the one we go with?
Dollar Tree Alex.
Dollar Tree Alex. It's a little bit harder to do that now when he just spent $1 bazillion in like a week, but that's still out there. But no, I like that move. Will it be impactful? We will see on that front. Yeah. All right, Scott. In a second, we will answer some mailbag questions. We already answered one, but we will answer some more, including some Christmas one. I'm pledging you right now. It's pre-Christmas. We're going to answer a couple of Christmas-related mailbag questions. We'll get into all that and more in just 1 moment. Okay, Scott. First, before we get to the Christmas stuff, a question from Nick17ATL, who says, very succinctly, offseason grade so far? Question mark. A 4-word question. I'll give you the honors. What would you grade the Braves offseason as of Monday, December 22nd?
I would go with an A-, and there is a real chance to get it to an A or legitimate A+, which I got to be honest, Brad, 2 months ago, I had no feel for where this offseason was going to go. Like, were they going to be cheap again and really avoid luxury tax, or were they going to go back to payroll levels where they were previously? And after a down year for the Braves, in all of our hearts, it was like, damn it, I hope the Braves go out and add some talent and change things up a little bit. And sure, maybe they didn't go out and sign Kyle Tucker for $400 million or didn't go out and sign Dylan Cease for $210 million over the next 7 years. But they've added a lot. They've raised the floor of this roster. I think they've raised the upside of this roster as well. I'm at an A-. Where are you at?
We're in the same range. I was debating between B and B+. It's good. I like what they've done. I know I wasn't on a number of the reaction emergency shows, but they have not done a move yet that I have like disliked. There's varying degrees of excitement on this stuff. But even the Yastrzemski one, which is the one I think that got the most pushback, I kind of like that deal, to be honest with you. The only reason why it's not an A is that starting pitching has not been addressed. If they had already done, even if they do Chris Bassett, I will give it an A- to an A. My only reason why it's not higher is that, and it's hard because I gave the date earlier. Like, we are big proponents of, like, you can't judge the offseason on December 22nd. Like, it's silly to do that. And I get it. People want to rush to reactions. Think about it. 3 weeks ago, Scott, people were furious about the way things were going. And the Braves made 3 substantial additions in a 5-day period. So, like, you never know when it's going to happen and what it's going to happen. So yeah, I'm closer to A- than I am to B-. Like, it's in that B people. And the only reason why it's not higher is because of starting pitching and my valuing that considerably, of like needing to do that more than maybe some fans do. But nothing negative at all. Like, I think if you're grading it negatively, I don't really know why you would. Maybe you're just trying to. But yeah, B+ and A-, I guess, are almost the same. But I'm trending to B. I'll go B+. I think it's about where I am on this. And if they do anything substantial with the rotation, and Chris Bassett, your mileage may vary, Tyler Mahle, if they add a starter that I think is a real starter, I will go to A-. That's where I'll be.
Yeah. And, if you're trying to be a critic of the moves, then sure, you can have real doubts about what does 35-year-old Mike Yastrzemski do. Like, can you just copy paste what he's done the last couple of years?
That is the one to be like, to downplay. I get why people downplay that. I really do. Like, I think you needed a step more of nuance to like that move. I think the price tag was higher than people expected. And then you look at it a little bit deeper, for example, and it's like, oh, it's only $9 million and then $10 million and then this very, very cheap mutual, buyout option thing. So it's like, even at first blush, it was like, oh, that's a lot. Oh, it's actually cheaper than when we thought it was originally.
It's basically a 2-year, $19 million contract with a cheaper 3rd year and a buyout. I mean, I know the whole thing is you roll in the guaranteed money to the total cost. And I get it. Me too. But if it was announced as 2 years, $19 million, I almost wonder if the reaction would have been a little bit lighter than
it probably would have been. And also, like, not to do this again, but he fits the roster in that he does one thing really well. He hits right-handed pitching. And, like, that's the strong side of a platoon. He's a better defender than Jurickson Profar. Like, there's reasons to believe. Anyway, we don't have to do that whole thing again. But that's the one move where I do think it's totally fine and understandable to not be excited about that. I totally get it. Iglesias and Suarez on good contracts, like, your bullpen went from a giant question mark to a potential strength in 2 moves.
Yeah.
And then, it is what it is. And Ha-Seong Kim, yeah, it wasn't Bo Bichette, but like, it's a 1-year deal. Hard to not like it. I like the offseason so far. It's more of an incomplete than a negative for me. It's like, still, like, they've done a lot, spent a lot of money, hard to be upset. In fact, on the money question, let's go to the next one. We should have more to say on that, which we could do. But question from Benjamin Pack that's related. And I like the way you frame this for our purposes. Are you surprised with the amount of money already committed to the 2026 payroll during this offseason? Are you surprised? Not that you like it. Are you surprised? Interesting way to frame that.
A little bit. Now, in my true heart of hearts, I really felt like the Braves wanted to reset the luxury tax a year ago, or they did reset the luxury tax. And then they just kind of wanted to clean up their books and then would get closer to payroll, where in 2024, it was up there. Like, it was much higher than it was in 2025, with no real change in the overall standing of the team. They were coming off a down year. I'm sure the Braves took note of what attendance looked like in the final 2 months of the season. I'm sure, like, the day of revenue was down significantly compared to what they do when the team is good, quite obviously. So am I shocked that they have been so aggressive? Maybe not like really surprised, but it was a legitimate question coming into it. And obviously I am thrilled that they are spending more at the level the Atlanta Braves should be spending at.
Yeah, I think when we talked about this last time you and I talked, that was where we landed. It was like, hey, this is where they should be. Like, regardless. There was a lot of frustration last winter. It's funny. We are, as a show, I think, accused way more recently. It's funny. Back when you and I were first starting, we were seen as the negative guys. Remember that, Scott? Fond memories of us being the negative guys.
Negative
and
Nancy's.
Now people think we're too positive, which is funny. Maybe it's because they're losing and we're, whatever. But we were critical of the offseason last winter from a spending perspective. And there's nuance of that with like, hey, that's not really an Alex Anthopoulos choice. That's a Terry McGurk choice, which is why the breakdown comes sometimes. But you're right. I think they were what, like 6th or 7th in baseball and payroll in 2024. Like they were up there pretty high. That season didn't go great. They made the playoffs. And then last year, I will go to my grave believing that Alex had a meeting with someone above him between his exit interview and his next comments that said, by the way, you have less money than we thought. I will go to my grave on that. And he'll never tell you. There's no reason for him to tell you. You don't criticize your boss publicly. That's not what happens. But I will go to my grave believing that happened last winter. And the positive thing to bring it full circle now is like that is not happening now. They're spending. Now, how much they're going to spend, I think that third tier of CBT tax might be the red line, I think. But hey, unless you're the Mets or the Dodgers, that's probably going to be the red line for most teams. Maybe the Blue Jays because they have a whole country behind them. It's kind of an interesting thing.
The
Braves kind of have a whole region behind them, but go ahead.
Did you see the Dodgers luxury tax penalty?
It's ridiculous. I mean, I get it. I get why. I mean, the Yankees used to be that way too. The Yankees were as recently as a few years ago. The Yankees, I think, were still number 1 in payroll, like 2 years ago, even more than the Dodgers. This has been recent. The Dodgers are going through the stratosphere. But yeah, isn't it like 100 something? I don't know. How much money is
$170 million in penalties for going over the tax? Just ridiculous. But we don't need a salary cap, Brad. We definitely don't need one, or a salary floor. We definitely don't need
or any kind of sanction on deferrals. None of those things. Even if you're anti-salary cap, which I get, maybe some notes on the new CBA about the way you can defer contracts so that Shohei can't have $500 million deferred or whatever it is. Yeah. So am I surprised, to answer the question? I'm really not. I kind of thought they were going to spend more. It's more that I wasn't sure they were going to spend more. And now we've seen it. So I feel better about it. I'm not shocked or anything. Maybe a slight pleasant surprise, but not overall. If they go above the third tier, like for instance, if they sign Framber Valdez to a giant contract, I will be surprised at that point. I won't be shocked anymore, but surprised in a good way if they spend even more than I think they're going to spend. But to date, I mean, it's also been very Alex coded the way they have spent. They have spent the money, but without any like big long-term money. I know Suarez got 30 years, but
they have $80 million roughly coming off the books in a calendar year, Brad. I mean, it's easier said than done to go year by year with your payroll, but I mean, $80 million. And of course, you're losing Chris Sale. At the moment, you're losing Chris Sale. You're losing Raisel Iglesias again. Like these things have a way of working themselves out. But I mean, as we sit here today, they have about 80 some odd million dollars coming off the books for next season.
They should go ahead and announce the Chris Sale extension ASAP. Go ahead and do that. I'd be fine with that. Do the Charlie Morton style. Add another year of $28 million for Chris Sale. That's fine. Go ahead and do that right now. Sign me up. I'm not saying they have to do that for the record. I'm being kind of funny, but I would not mind that blue box at some point soon to just say, hey, here's one more year, Chris. We'll go to year. As long as you want to pitch, please stick around. I'd be fine with that. Okay, Scott, I think we could probably move to the Christmas portion of the podcast in an effort to not go super long. So we will divide the line here, everybody. If you don't want to hear our takes briefly on some Christmas things, you can sign off the podcast. We don't want you to, but there's a Braves related question. Yeah. There is one, but it's not going to be about the 2025-26 team. Okay. The first one is this is a question directly to you because I have no opinion on this. It's from Rye Addis, who says, the question we all want answered is, what is the best Christmas episode of The Office? And why I say that, if you don't know, Scott is an Office super fan, which is why he's answered this question. I've seen The Office. The Office is funny. I'm not an Office super fan. So this is all you, my friend.
Yes, it's actually a little tradition now that we watch the Christmas episodes because I think there's 7 of them on either Christmas Eve or right before Christmas. Best Office Christmas episode. There are some good ones. I would go with Benihana Christmas. Underrated, though, would be Classy Christmas, where Jim and Dwight have a snowball fight. That's where we will end the Office talk, because if you've never seen the show, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But the Benihana Christmas episode is not just like the best Christmas episode. It's one of like the top maybe 15 episodes in the show. And I will say, Brad, as somebody who has recently watched Seinfeld for the first time, I am now familiar with Festivus. I think we're
But
going to have to
for the
work.
rest of us,
We're going to have
yes.
to work Festivus into our Christmas Eve viewing this year. Great episode, one of my favorites of the whole series. So I am familiar. I had heard of Festivus. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? I do know the origins now, and I am educated in Seinfeld.
I think me being a little bit older than you explains the gap here. Like I was watching Seinfeld when it was on. Like I was young, but I was like staying up to like watch Seinfeld and thought it was funny. It's very funny. Again, I've seen there's like 100. I looked this up. There's 189 Office episodes. I bet I've seen 50 of them at least. I've seen a bunch of Office, just not the whole series. So you're the authority. Please, if you want to comment and yell your own thoughts at Scott, this is the time to do it. I promise you. All right, last one. This is the Braves related question from, I believe it's Braves UGA fan. That could be anybody. There are a lot of Braves UGA fans, but that was the handle of the person who sent this question to us. Hey guys, with the holidays here, what was your favorite Braves themed gift that you ever got? So interesting. I'm bad at remembering gifts, but I have a good answer for this, I think. So you go ahead first. I'm going to defer to you, and I'll bring up the rear.
I am not a local, but I have a
You are
great
not.
answer. So my now wife, but back then girlfriend, actually bought me a brick outside of Truist Park. Has my name on it. I think it says "Go Braves," Scott Coleman. And I have a replica of that brick in a stand at my house. It's just to my left, actually. We had been dating maybe like 6 months at this point. So that's a pretty cool gift. It's still there when I was in Atlanta last, like
And
5 years
that's
ago.
why you married her. That's what right then is when you decided to marry her. Is that right?
I did. Yes. The next day I went to the jewelry store and bought her a ring and said, "You bought me a brick. Will you marry me right now?" But it's cool. So I don't know. Maybe if you're ever walking around Truist Park and
I
you're
was
on
going to say, should we have a pilgrimage to the Scott Coleman brick?
I do have a photo with it. It's on the first base side of the stadium, outside the stadium, obviously. But I did find it the last time I was in Atlanta, like 5 years ago. It took a little while. There's a lot of bricks out there
A
with
lot
a
of
lot of
bricks.
names.
Yeah.
But I do have a brick, which was a great gift. I was like, what the hell? Because it's heavy. I was like, what on earth did you buy me? We've only been dating like 6 months. It's not like we've been together forever now at this
She knew.
point. She knew. There you go.
Well
What
done.
about you?
No, it's funny. I saw Steven, our co-host Steven, at a game in person this year. And if I had known, we would have gone and found the brick. That'd have been our activity, taking a picture of it for the world to see. Mine is less relational than that, but kind of also relational. So people may remember this because you bring it up all the time. I'm a Parkview High School alum in Lilburn, Georgia. And the Braves have had two very famous Parkview alums on their team. The most recent one is Matt Olson, who's very good. I'm a lot older than Matt Olson, so I did not know Matt growing up. I did and do know Jeff Rancourt. So Jeff was 2 years ahead of me in school, but we played basketball, and I've known Jeff for a long time. I know his wife. I know his mother was a teacher of mine in school. Just keep that in mind. I know that's the level of 7th grade math teacher, Jeff Rancourt's mom. So anyway, this is before I was covering the team. I was a fan of the team, but in 2005, so I'm old, I was 19, Christmas 2005. My parents, who don't get me a lot of gifts, I'm not saying that in a negative way. We were not a big gift family, just wasn't what we did a lot of. They got, and that, if you don't remember, if you're not old enough to remember this, Jeff Rancourt 2005 was the thing.
Oh yeah,
that was the year he came up. It was incredible. SI cover, all the stuff.
The Natural on the front cover of Sports Illustrated. I mean, Jeff Rancourt Mania, if you're not old enough to remember, was the summer of Jeff Rancourt. I think he homered in his debut or like a couple games into his debut. I mean, it was scenes in Atlanta, the baby Braves.
It was scenes in Atlanta. And obviously, since you now know that, like, I literally know Jeff, went to my high school, it was an even bigger deal for people like me. It was like, I know this guy, he's going crazy with the Braves. I'm in college at the time. And my parents got me a nice, one of the nice, authentic, whatever it was then, the stitched Francoeur jerseys for Christmas that year. And that's all I got. That was it for me for maybe for years. That might have been my last gift from my parents. But I got one of those, and that was very cool. I still have it. I don't wear it anymore because he doesn't play anymore, but I have it it's in my closet, which you can't see. I've had two nice Brave jerseys in my life. That one and a Freddie Freeman one, which I also know Freddie and his family. And so there's all these connections and things. So the next time I get one, I'll probably be Matt Olson because, like, I don't know Matt, but I mean, we went to the same school. I love Ronnie. If anyone wants to buy me a jersey, feel free. Don't buy me a jersey, everybody. It's fine. I should wear, when I go to games now, I'm like working sometimes, and it's not quite the same thing. But that was a cool one. I will cherish that one. And knowing Jeff, I wish it had gone better for Jeff after that. But at the time, trade value was through the roof, and all those things. It didn't work out very well. But
it's funny, and then we will conclude the Jeff Francoeur segment of this podcast. But
why?
I wonder if Jeff Francoeur debuted 20 years later, would he have been a player who, like, every week on the show, we would have been like, yeah, Jeff had another big week, but dear God, there are some screaming
100%. No, I mean, it probably existed then.
Yeah.
But that was early. It was still early. I mean, there was blogs happening and stuff, but it wasn't like the full, Fangraphs era at that point in time. It would have been like we talk about Michael Harris now on steroids with Jeff. Like, every flashing sign, he swung at everything. Everyone would have known it was going to cool off. But back then, 20 years ago, like, maybe the sickos, maybe if you went to like Saber at that point in time, they were probably flashing the light on Jeff Francoeur, but not in the mainstream. I wasn't. Yeah. I was like, this guy I know is going to be the greatest player of all time. He might be like the next Hank Aaron, and that didn't happen. But cool gift, Mom and Dad. Shouts to you guys. Not as cool as the brick, though. So Scott's wife wins this one by a lot. Tell her I said that, Scott. And I promise, next time I go, you got to remind me. Next time I go over to Truist, I got to try to find the brick because that'll be fun.
Yeah. I think I have a little card on like the bottom of the stand that holds the brick that shows like roughly where it's at. Yeah. So I'll find that. I'll send it to you. You and Steven can take a nice photo in front of it and do a maybe go live from outside of my brick at Truist Park.
That's what I'll do. I will go live on Hammer Territory YouTube when I find the brick and just be like, all right, everybody, found the brick, and then just end it. All right. Well, thank you, Scott, for that story. That's all we have on today's podcast. Look, we tease it. We started here. We'll end here. The Braves can still do some stuff in the next couple of days. There is not a hard moratorium. Most GMs that are not like AJ Preller or like Jerry Dipoto tend to take a break for a few days around Christmas. But Alex isn't afraid to make a move. So we'll have content if things happen. Please subscribe to the show. But if anything happens, I promise we'll break it. We might be in somebody's kitchen for Christmas or something like that, but we'll have a show at some point. Some combination of the four of us will react to it. In the meantime, Scott, if we have new listeners, where can they find all of your musings on social media, including what I can only assume will be a live meltdown on Monday night during Colts 49ers?
Football is officially dead to me, Brad. It's been a bad.
It was going so well for about 2 months in Scott's life, and then it didn't anymore.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
I am at Scott Coleman 55 on Twitter/X. As always, a big thank you to people for checking out the show. And we will have some kind of content between now and the new year. As Brad said, if there's any transaction, of course, we'll do a show. But we'll have something on the feed just to kind of hold everybody over. And then hopefully in January, we just get right back up and going and wrap things up. And then before you know it, I think spring training is early this year. I think because of the WBC.
Yep.
I think report dates for some teams start like February 10th or something like that. So it's going to be here before we know it. Hopefully a much better season on the horizon for the Atlanta Braves.
No question about that. At least compared to last year, I think that we could be safe in projecting that. Maybe no guarantees, but I think it'll be better than they were a year ago. If you want to, you can follow me on Twitter/X at BT Rowland. And please follow the show as well at Hammer Territory across social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc. And most importantly, subscribe to the show and also tell your friends about the podcast. We know how many Braves fans there are in the world. I live in Atlanta, but even around the Atlanta area, etc., there's a lot of you. So spread the word for us. If you're an audio listener, subscribe on YouTube. If you're a YouTube subscriber, subscribe on audio. Double up. We appreciate the support in that way too for our sponsors and everybody else. So, and the network, Foul Territory's got a great thing going. There's lots and lots of team shows. If you like other teams as well, we have you cover across the board and the flagship plus Fair Territory with Ken Rosenthal. The list goes on and on and on. But thank you everyone for listening to the show as always, and we'll see everybody next time.